What is up, everybody? Today on my channel, we are going to be going over the effect of inflation on housing prices and how it's going to affect the real estate market. So stay tuned. What up, everybody? My name is Nielsen. I am a real estate agent here in the state of Utah, and on my channel I go over everything when it comes to home buying, selling, investing, and relocating tips here to the state of Utah. I also go over new construction, home tours in general, and just market updates and tips. So if any of that interests you, then subscribe and hit the notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any future content. For those of you that are coming back to my channel, thank you so much for supporting. Now let's see how inflation affects the housing market and how it will affect you. So when it comes down to it, there are a couple of factors that's going to affect the price of goods, essentially the real estate market. Inflation, the amount of money that's being pumped into the economy, and then supply and demand economics. So generally, for the most part, if we take out supply and demand and all of that economic price up and down and such, inflation is still going to have an effect on the housing market, because as the price of goods goes up, all of the goods are going up. Lumber, concrete, plumbing supplies, electrical supplies, roofing supplies, you name it, whatever it may be. If all of the prices are going up generally, then the total price of homes is going to be going up as well. At the same time, if you start adding a supply and demand element to the equation, then it could either drastically increase the price of homes even more, which is what we experienced in 2021 and still now in 2022. But if the supply or if the demand goes down and the supply still goes up, then that might counterset some of the inflation and keep the price of goods the same. So when it comes to the housing market and housing and owning real estate, most big investors, millionaires, are purchasing real estate when inflation is hitting an all-time high. And you might ask yourself, why is the case? Why are people buying real estate when the housing market is going up, when the prices are going up? Why are they purchasing it instead of purchasing low and then selling at a high? Well, some things to keep in mind are, when you purchase a piece of property, whether it's your own residence or whether it's an investment property, you pay a lump sum amount at the very beginning, otherwise known as your down payment. So if the down payment is a fixed amount, and let's say, for example, if it's you as an investor, or if you are purchasing your own personal residence, you might be putting 3 to 5% down. You could put 10 to 20% down, but for the most part, first-time home buyers, or just home buyers in general for their own residence, are putting anywhere between 3 to 5% down. Now what happens is that 3 to 5% was fixed at that time. So if you bought back in 2020, that 3 and 5%, well, that money is gone and put into essentially your home. Now with inflation, as it starts to creep up, the price of goods and everything is going up. So the housing market is going up and more homes are going up in price. Your fixed amount at that time, where it might have been $10,000 to $20,000, that $10,000 to $20,000 then is worth less than what it is now. But now your property is worth more than what it was before. So essentially, you're getting like a doubling or tripling, quadrupling of your down payment, even though you haven't pumped in any more money. Hopefully that makes sense. So essentially, home prices are at least rising at the price of inflation. So while we experienced last month maybe a 6 to 8% increase in inflation, you're getting a 6 to 8% increase in the value of your home. But at the same time, your down payment that you had paid previously probably got quadrupled in value. Now when it comes down to it, you're also have to take into effect the supply and demand of housing. So even if inflation is drastically high, if there is an oversupply of homes, that will tend to bring the price of homes down. Just because when it comes down to it, the value of homes, even though it is affected by inflation, people only pay for it what they're willing to pay. So people are determining the price based on what they think is the value of the home is, otherwise the sellers, and then the buyers what they deem the value of the home to be. When the sellers and the buyers meet that mutual agreement on price, that price was determined by those two parties. If you have an increase of supply of homes on the market, if the demand stays the same, well then home prices are going to come down because there's going to be more on the market. Then that's when people could potentially get a deal on a home even below asking. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that if mortgage rates go up, which we have experienced from 3 all the way up to 5%, what's going to happen is that's going to bring the demand down just a little bit. You might have had people that were able to afford like a $350,000 house. Here in the state of Utah, that's cutting it at the beginning of home prices here, even for condos and townhomes. So if back then they were able to afford it at a 3% interest rate, well now at 5, they might only be able to afford a $250,000 to a $300,000 house. They might even be priced out. So what happens is the feds are increasing the interest rates to counter inflation. Now it's going to cause two things. The increase in inflation rate is going to bring down a little bit of the demand. There's not going to be as much because there are going to be some buyers that are being pulled out of the market because now they can't qualify for the home. So that's going to bring down the total price of homes because now less people are able to afford a home, so the demand's going to come down. Less demand typically ends up being a lower in the price. So it's also going to counteract that inflation just a bit of what they can. While the home prices are going up in inflation, the increase in interest rates is bringing it down. What they're trying to do is stabilize the market a little bit so that way the home prices aren't increasing as drastically. So in the end, inflation is going to need to end at some point. At one point or another, inflation is going to come to a stop or come back to like a normal, healthy amount. And then it all kind of depends on what the supply and demand are for that current market. Here in the state of Utah, we have a massive demand and a very small supply of homes that are being built and provided here in the market. While home builders are building as fast and as much as they can, we can't typically keep up with the market just because we have an influx of people moving in here to the state of Utah because it is such a great growth opportunity here. Now with the rising interest rates, we are going to lose a little bit of our buyer pool, so the demand will dip a little bit. The supply is still going to be remaining the same unless we have like a massive influx of builders coming into the market. At the same time, if inflation starts to come down a little bit, then we might see a little bit more of a healthy growth here in the state of Utah for the real estate market. Anyways, I hope this has been helpful in kind of guiding you on what's going on with the market with rising interest rates, inflation, supply and demand, and whatnot. That's kind of an overview, generally nationwide. When it comes down to it with Utah, we're probably still going to be expecting growth and a strong growth here in the state of Utah because the demand is so strong and the supply is very minimal. So we'll see kind of what happens, but for the most part, if you are getting into a home while inflation is increasing over and over, then great. Your money is just going to be getting compounded over and over. So I hope this has been a helpful video. If it has, please hit that like button. That would greatly help me a lot and I would appreciate it. If you have any questions when it comes to the real estate market, buying, selling, house hacking, investing, whatever it may be, here's my contact information. Let's get in touch and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Other than that, I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.